Welcome back, Baylor Scott and White Sports Performance Center in Frisco, Texas, right across the street from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters and practice facility. Marshall, preseason pick to win the East, and they're joining us right now, and their head coach, Doc Holliday. Doc, good to have you here again, buddy.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Also joining us today, Levi Brown, starting center. Levi, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
And Chris Jackson, cornerback, has started all 4 years. Coach, I want to start with you. Last year you finished 6-2 in the conference, beat South Florida in a bowl game, and I was sharing a story about a radio show I had to do a couple of weeks ago, and I had to remind this certain host that you did beat South Florida because it was almost like Conference USA, it didn't happen last year, and it kind of bugged me a little bit.
Well, I mean, Conference USA, I think at this point, we've proven that in the bowl games over the last 4 years. We can play with anybody. I think from top to bottom, this league's as good as it's ever been, and got tremendous coach in this league, got a lot of great players, and we'll line up and play anybody.
What stands out to me when I go down your roster, I think you have a lot of Power 5 talent at a number of positions. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Well, I think I got a lot of really good kids and really great players, and I tell our kids all the time, though, potential gets you beat, production wins games, and all these expectations and everything that's out there. That's all great, but we got to go to work every day and turn all that potential into production. If we do that, we got a chance.
Over the years, you talk to players, and one of the things that's kind of an unwritten rule is field position. And last year, you were plus 6.3 yards. That's sixth best in the FBS in field position and best in Conference USA. That was an important factor of your success last season.
Well, there's no question. I mean, anytime you start, and it's never changed there in the 10 years I've been there. It starts with playing great defense, and when you can play great defense and do a great job in the kicking game, that field position is going to change in your favor. So, we work really hard on number one, taking care of football on offense, playing great defense, and playing great special teams. If we can do that, we'll have a shot to win.
Well, you have a solid offense coming back, solid offensive line, but do you have to find new targets?
Well, we do. I mean, we've got 9 starters back on offense, led by Levi and that offensive line, and Levi's got to do a great job for us this year leading that offensive line. I like what those guys are all about. Our tight ends are back intact. Running backs are all back. Of course, the freshman quarterback who went through some growing pains a little bit a year ago is back, and he's matured up a lot. Got to find some wideouts. Obi's back. I think we got the talent there, but we got to take that young talent and turn it into production.
I want to talk about the running backs because one that stands out is Brandon Knox, who came on late in the season. He didn't have a carry until November, but yet all of a sudden he emerged.
Well, he was a freshman that we call it competitive excellence at Marshall. That you don't know when your number is going to be called, but when that number is called, you got to be prepared to do your job. And he's a guy that just goes to work every day. He's a great kid, extremely physical kid. He's about 218 pounds. He runs with great pad level. Had some injuries in that backfield. He came on towards the end of the year and played great for us.
Had 204 yards, by the way, rushing versus Virginia Tech. And also Tyler King rushed for 655 yards last year. Injuries kind of caught up with him there at the end of the year.
Yeah, he's a guy that he's a talented young guy that's got to, you got to keep developing him. He's got to get stronger, and he's got to be able to hold up a little better than what he has. But he's a talented guy that's very explosive when he gets the ball in his hands.
You mentioned Isaiah Green, Conference USA all-freshman team last year, second in total offense in Conference USA. Consistency, is that the word you've talked to him a lot about in the spring?
We talked about consistency. It's probably the number one word that we use in our program, not only about the quarterback position, but the entire team. We got to shrink that gap between the most consistent and least consistent to get where we want to go. And, we went through some growing pains with him a year ago, but you saw him grow as a player as the season went along. I thought Tim Cram's, their offensive coordinator, did a tremendous job with him. Thought he played his best game in that bowl game, as you mentioned before. He's had a great summer. He had a great spring, and we're looking forward to what he can do in the fall.
You mentioned Obi Ayalo. Had 42 receptions last year, 505 yards. Does he have to step up his game now that he becomes the primary target?
Yeah, he does. He's got to be the leader out there, which he is in that receiver position. And, again, we got a lot of young talent there that's got a lot of potential along with Obi. And they're just young guys that hadn't played a lot, so they got to grow up quick.
You mentioned turnovers, second most in the league. You turned over 28 times last year. Ball security, those are the little things that turn a 9-4 season into a 12-1 or 13-1 season.
There's no question. The only thing we talk about offensively as a staff is take care of the ball.
Right.
And I thought, as the season went along, we did a better job of doing that. If you look at our 9 wins we had a year ago, we won the turnover margin. You look at our losses there, we didn't do a very good job taking care of the football. But I thought as the season went along, Isaiah grew up, started taking care of the ball a little better. And that's what that quarterback position you have to do, and he did that.
Well, one of the additions in the staff is former Charlotte head coach Brad Lambert, who had the third best defense Conference USA last year. What has he brought to the team?
Well, I got great respect for Brad. I thought he did a great job when he was at Charlotte. One game away from going to a bowl game a year ago. Brad and I go way back. He's been at Marshall before. He understands the high standards and expectations we have there. He also understands that in order to win a championship, you've got to play great defense. That's where it starts. Brad's a great defensive mind. The kids have embraced him. He's come in. We're excited not only with Brad, but also with Chip West and Mike Trier and J.C. Price and Cornell Brown. They got a great defensive staff, and we just got to continue. We've been able to play great defense around there the last 4 or 5 years, and it has to happen again this year.
Well, you and I have always talked in the past about stopping the run at Marshall, and last year you allowed just about 100 yards, 104 yards per game. That was second best in Conference USA, and that's going to be the focal point again this year, I would expect.
Well, there's no doubt. We got to replace a couple things there defensively, a couple players defensively, but I think defensively up front we probably got more depth than we've had there. Led by Channing Hames and a couple of those young players, but we got potential at linebacker. We got to turn that potential into production. Amari Cobb's a guy that could be an all-conference USA linebacker, and so that front seven's got to continue to develop. I think along with Chris's leadership in the back end there at corner, Nazi, Drayton, and Carry-On Morrell all back, that we got a shot there in the secondary.
Secondary going to be the strength of the defense, do you think?
Needs to be, because in the way we play defense, it starts at the corner position. We put a lot of pressure on Chris and in those corners because of what we do with our fronts. So, those guys, they got to step up, and that's what I like about Chris. He likes that challenge. That's why corners like to play. We got Darryl Roberts is starting for the Jets right now at corner that's played for us, and they like to play that type of defense. And Chris will be the leader over there, along with Carry-On and the rest of those guys, and excited to watch them go to work.
Because you have some young guys on the defensive line, does that put a little more pressure on the safeties to kind of help up and run support?
Well, you hope not. And again, I like our defensive front. We lost Malik Gant to the Patriots, and he was a tremendous run stopper. And, Nazi and Drayton are going to have to take that role along with a couple of young guys. But, our defense won't change. Brad's going to come in, and Brad believes the same philosophy that I believe. He understands what we want to get done there, and I like what I saw in the spring, and we just got to continue what happened in the spring over into fall, and make sure by the time August, into August rolls around, we're ready to go.
Let's talk to the players now. Levi Brown, he was first team All-Conference USA last year. Both players come in, by the way, as preseason All-Conference USA. Levi, talk about having a young quarterback. What was that like for you as an offensive lineman?
Just having a new quarterback in general was a little different. Having to learn who the person is, learn little things about them, and like everyone says, the center-quarterback relationship is a very important one. And Isaiah and I have some similarities in our lifestyle. He's from Georgia, I'm from Georgia. We had little things to talk about at first. And once we kind of laid down our foundation of our relationship, it wasn't much different because he was learning from me, and at the same time I was learning from him. There were practices whenever I would tell him immediately things I saw that he didn't see. And playing quarterback, you can see things better than I can. You can see a corner pressed up about to blitz and whatnot. So he's got his opportunities to make me right, and I've got mine to make him right. And neither one of us get upset when we're wrong. So we've grown and together as our relationship as a center quarterback, and we've made it a really good one over the past year and a half, 2 years now.
Franklin, Georgia, Heard County, to be exact.
Absolutely.
See, I do my homework.
Yeah, small town.
Where is it in relation to Atlanta? Because I lived in Atlanta a long time.
If you're in Atlanta and you go about an hour and a half west until you run into Alabama, you stop right there. Yeah, that's about it.
Which most people would like to stop before they get into Alabama, but that's a whole other story.
It's a small place. One red light in the whole county.
Is it really?
Absolutely.
Oh, what did you do for fun? Play football?
Yeah, play football.
He played tennis. He was a better tennis player than he was a
He was a tennis player?
I was a tennis player. I was a basketball player, and then I played football also. I was always busy. There was always something to do. That's not like I lived in the smaller part of town where no one was, so I had to drive 15 minutes to get to practice every day. So
Did you really?
Absolutely.
Tennis, though, I don't want to see you rushing the net. That'd be scary.
That's what I loved. That's what I loved.
Of course you did.
There were no 6 foot tall tennis players. I was by far the tallest person at 6'3" in high school. It was just fun.
Coach just smoked you on that one. That was good.
He pulled that one out of his back pocket.
I like that. Chris Jackson, cornerback, 4-year starter. Chris, when I look back at your career, and I've called a couple of games when you played, I think it's safe to say you've improved each season.
Yeah, that's definitely the plan. Coming into every offseason after the season, you want to get bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, more athletic. So that's definitely been a key goal of mine, is to improve every season.
The defense we were just talking about, secondary could be the strength of the defense this year. Your thoughts on that?
I definitely think we can be the strength because the past few years the front seven has definitely carried us to an extent. We had a great front seven every year. This year we lose a few pieces, but we got some young guys that are definitely going to step up and they're going to play great ball for us.
What has Brad Lambert done to challenge you, the new defensive coordinator?
One thing that's stood out the most, he's challenged me to read books, watch motivational speakers, things like that outside of football that can make you a better football player, that can make you a better leader for this defense.
You know how to get on his good side? I can tell you. Just tell him he was a great player at Kansas State and we're purple. Okay? And you do that, you're in with him. I'm telling you. Just did you know he was a great player?
No, I didn't know that at first. He doesn't really talk about him playing much. He just talks about being a great leader.
He was, and that's how old I am. I covered him when he played at Kansas State, But that's the way to do it. The defense this season, you guys, you had a lot of close games last year.
Yeah.
How can the defense make a difference in turning that around?
We just got to learn to finish, Coming into every game, you gotta compete for all 4 quarters. You can't just compete for 3 and then the last 2 drives of the game, you kind of slow down. So, we gotta learn to finish and be tough throughout the entire game.
Well, I'm going to ask Coach this same question. I've been asking all the coaches about this. The targeting rule now going to have replay involved. As a cornerback, that has to be special for you because now it's not going to be you're gone, you're out of here.
Yeah, it's definitely special because, it's a lot of close calls out there on the field. The naked eye can't see everything, especially at the speeds that we're running and moving. So, replay is definitely going to be great for us.
Doc, you've got to be happy about that change.
Well, it's just it's such a critical call, and you actually take a kid out of a game and change the game, and of course that along with the penalties. So it's so critical that if you make that call, that you make the right call, and I think they're working in that direction.
Now, finally, the transfer portal. You like it? Does it need to be tweaked?
Well, I think it needs to be tweaked. I think after this first year, I think you're going to find out a lot about it. I think what kids don't realize is, there's only 10% of the people in that transfer portal who actually end up with scholarships. So there's a lot of people that are going in that transfer portal that at the end of the day are going to be left out, and they're going to be not where they were, where they had a scholarship, where they're not, they don't have anywhere to go. And I think the greatest thing this game teaches you is overcome adversity,
right?
And fighting through things, and when things get tough, find a way to make it happen. And I worry a little bit that we're taking a little bit out of that game. That when things get tough, unfortunately, some of these kids just take the easy way out and try to leave instead of staying there and fighting. I mean, I got example after example after example of kids who have come to me and say they're leaving, and I say, no, you're not. You're going to stay here and find a way to make things work. They fight through things, and they walk out with a college degree in one hand and an NFL contract 2 years later, and things work out for them. So I worry a little bit. I think there's some positives, but I also think there's negatives. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to look back on this thing a year from now, and there's going to be a lot more minuses than there are pluses.
I would agree 100% everything you said. Coach, good to have you here again.
Gentlemen,
great. Thanks for being here. When we come back, we'll talk to Middle Tennessee. Last year, they played for the title. What's up in store for 2019? We'll have that when we come back.